On February 29th of this year, Occupy groups around the country protested against ALEC. I attended one in Augusta and captured the video and interviews you'll see later in this segment. Don't know who or what ALEC is? Well, don't feel bad. Not many Americans do. But the sooner Americans know what ALEC is doing to our democracy, the sooner we can take back our government.
The American Legislative Exchange Council.
It's no accident that Republican-controlled legislatures here and across the country have been obstructing health care reform, rolling back environmental regulations, busting public and private unions, encouraging the privatization of public schools and prisons, and trying to pass voter suppression legislation. This assault on the poor, the sick, the elderly, the disabled, on teachers and on working families has been orchestrated by this obscure, shadowy, conservative organization that is financed by millions of corporate dollars. ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, was founded in 1973 by Paul Weyrich, a right-wing political activist, and funded by many of the largest corporations such as Mobil Exxon, Big Pharma, super wealthy families, and Koch Industries. Weyrich is the man who founded the Heritage Foundation, the Moral Majority, remember that? The Free Congress Foundation, and ALEC. ALEC has been writing legislation favorable to corporate and right-wing interests and has been supporting Republican governors and lawmakers to introduce these insidious bills in dozens of states across the country. ALEC has written legislation attacking a woman's right to choose, insurance-funded birth control. They've written legislation that would roll back environmental protections in favor of corporate greed and profit, legislation against health care reform, legislation restricting voting. ALEC has written legislation hostile to public and private unions, and legislation that would privatize public schools and prisons. ALEC has also written legislation attempting to cut back on unemployment and workers' compensation. Does this sound just slightly familiar with the Republican Party's agenda right here in Maine? We've seen Governor LePage try to coerce Republican legislators into dismantling the social safety net that would drop 65,000 people from MaineCare and transfer millions to municipalities that can't afford it. And it would result in a loss of 1,000 jobs. We've seen Governor LePage and the Republicans attack unions and demonize teachers of all people. They are also trying to limit unemployment and workers' compensation. We've seen Senate President Kevin Ray sponsor a bill to dismantle LERC, the Land Use Regulatory Commission, and leave Maine's natural resources vulnerable to corporate greed. All the while, LePage rails against the EPA for protecting the only real asset we have, our natural resources, which attract millions of visitors each year, making tourism the state's largest industry by far. If they succeed, the work of Ed Muskie and George Mitchell and 50 years of successes in cleaning up our water and our air will be reversed. And just last year, in a citizens' referendum, we, the people, overturned LePage's and the Republican legislature's new law that would suppress voting in Maine by disallowing our long-standing tradition of same-day voter registration.
Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo-goo syndrome, good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
This all has been a calculated, shadowy assault on the environment and our rights as voters. ALEC and its corporate partners wish to silence the voices of Maine citizens in the legislative process. You see, rather than writing legislation that reflects and protects the interests of Mainers, our Republican legislators and governor take these model bills written by lobbyists and approved by ALEC's Republican and corporate members as if they were their own. We believe there is something inherently wrong with that.
I think you're the only reporter here, right? Today is?
My name is Jane Edwards, and I'm from Vassalboro.
Why are you out here today?
Well, I'm out here because this is a protest about ALEC. They write laws and try to get various states to adapt the law in their version of the law. And I have read that their laws are very bad. That's why I'm carrying a sign. Their laws are funded by those that have a lot of money, and they don't necessarily represent the interests of the common people. I want Maine legislators to write our laws for Maine people dealing with Maine circumstances.
And the woman with the black hat there in the ALEC song.
What's your name?
Joseph Kane.
Joseph, why are you out here today?
Because I don't think it's right for outside money to come in to buy these campaigns and stuff, buy votes. I don't like that. I like the one vote for each person. None of this outside money coming in.
What's your name?
My name is Phyllis Coelho, and I live in Belfast.
And why are you here today?
Well, first of all, I support Occupy 100%, but also I've known about the American Legislative Exchange Council for quite a while, and the kinds of things that they've been doing. Basically, it's a group of corporations, a large group of corporations, that have representatives, and they've reached out to, state house representatives in all the states, and also certainly in our Congress. And they influence, by their constant flow and stream of money from the corporations, they influence the legislators in voting for the right-wing agenda.
And people ought to be really concerned about an institution like ALEC, which seems innocuous in some ways, but is really funded by some very wealthy, essentially anti-government, anti-public interest, people like the Koch brothers who've made a lot of money, who want to get government out of the way so they can make a lot more money. And they're funding these front groups like ALEC that are writing legislation, that are feeding it to governors and legislators around the country. Maine is just a pawn in this chess game. And that Maine has a lot of very valuable natural resources, and they want to exploit those faster for more profit than ever. And that's what this is all about.
In my next segment, I'll expose the ALEC players here in Maine. You'll be surprised to learn who they are, who they represent, and who they are funded by. You'll also learn that your voices and your votes don't count because they are being trumped by big money, Congress, and even the Supreme Court.
I'm Kathleen Dunkel, and this is Emma, Nathan, and Nora Waldron. We're from Belfast, Maine, and I'm here to celebrate democracy, and because I don't feel that we live in a democracy any longer. As long as legislation can be purchased, it's not a democracy. I would just hope that the American people see that we have the power to change this. And we're the only ones that can change this. We're the 99%. We are the voice of this country. And it's time to take our country back. And I just want to make sure that we're leaving a better place for our children. I feel like this country is being changed. I think that corruption has become so prevalent that we turn a blind eye to it. And I want to leave this a true democracy for my children. And I feel like that democracy is slipping through our fingers, and we need to do something about it.